Hey there, how you doing, folks? Hope you're doing great today. Today we're going to be talking about the initiating process group. We're going to be talking about how to make sure you can truly ace the initiating process group on the PMP exam. I know a lot of people would say, but Phil, it's such a small area. Why do we need to worry about initiating? Well, we're going to be covering all the areas. So eventually I will get to the closing process group, but right now we are on initiating. And initiating is not actually the smallest process group on the PMP exam. It's the second to the smallest because it has 13% of the questions from initiating. Closing is the smallest area at just 7%. But it just takes 1%, to be honest, to kill one's efforts on the PMP exam. And that's why I would like to address these areas one by one. Okay, so first of all, for this curriculum that I'm going to be covering on Facebook Live, I would like you to refer to a free document on PMI's website. You're probably going to have to go to Google and you're going to have to Google PMP exam content outline. Okay, now I'm looking at this document right here on my phone, as you can see, okay, and everyone can download this for free. It's a PDF, but it's a powerful PDF. You see, a lot of people don't know the secrets to passing the PMP exam. One of the secrets is to read the PMP exam content outline. If you do not read the PMP exam content outline, you could be in for a rude shock. Stuff that you didn't even know was in the content outline could appear on the exam. You see, the PMP exam content outline is the blueprint on which the PMP exam is based. So I would highly recommend you download a copy, read it, study it like you would a PMBOK guide. Make sure you truly understand what is in it. Okay. Before, the content outline used to be a paid for document. You couldn't get it for free, but the PMI have now allowed people download it for free. Okay, if you go to page 5 of that document, you see a section here, performance domain 1, initiating. What I would like you to do before you go too far in your studying of the initiating process group for your PMP exam is to actually study and read in depth what exactly the PMI is talking about here. Okay, you can see initiating, and it goes through all the different tasks in initiating that you as a project manager are supposed to be able to perform. So if we take a look at these tasks, task 1, perform project assessment based upon available information. And when they say project assessment, they're talking about assessing the current project in its early stages. Okay, it states perform project assessment based on available information, lessons learned from previous projects, and meetings with relevant stakeholders in order to support the evaluation of the feasibility of new products or services within the given assumptions and or constraints. So what are they talking about here? They're talking about analyzing what is on the ground to see if this project is really a feasible project, if it makes sense to embark on the project. Kind of having a go, no-go mindset. And you're initiating, you're not in planning yet. So that is a very important task. It's the very first task. It talks about feasibility. Feasibility studies obviously come to mind, right? But that's not in the PMBOK guide. But you should be ready to face questions like that on the exam, you know? The next task is identify key deliverables based on the business requirements in order to manage customer expectations and direct the achievement of project goals. See, again, they're talking about identifying key deliverables. This is early stages, okay? Task 3, perform stakeholder analysis. What is a stakeholder analysis? Do you know what it is? Do you remember the stakeholder matrix? What do we call that? We call it the power interest grid, or the power influence grid, or the influence impact grid. All of that stuff, know what it means. Salience model. Okay, that's task 3. Task 4, it says identify high-level risks, assumptions, and constraints. So this happens in developing the project charter, not even in risk management. And then it goes to say, and constraints based on the current environment, organizational factors, historical data, and expert judgment. So while you're identifying high-level risks, you are carrying out quite a few tasks here. Task 5 is participate in the development of the project charter. So you as the PM, you could participate in it. You are not signing off on it, obviously, but you could participate in it, okay, by compiling and analyzing gathered information in order to ensure project stakeholders are in agreement. See? Task 6, obtain project charter approval. So if you get a question on the exam that says you're a project manager, you've developed a charter, what should you do next? You should get approval. Did you know that you should get approval? Did you know that you could be the person who developed the charter because no one else had taken the initiative? You see, questions such as you're a project manager, you are now in monitoring and controlling, you join the project, there's no charter on the project, what should you do? Develop a charter. It doesn't matter how late it is. Except the project is done and closed, you should still endeavor to develop a charter, get approval. It says, in order to formalize the authority assigned to the project manager and gain commitment and acceptance for the project. Task 7, conduct benefit analysis with relevant stakeholders to validate project alignment with organizational strategy. Now that one is becoming huge in the world of the PMI. In fact, we will be talking about benefits registers and so on in the 6th edition. But to align benefits with organizational strategy is becoming really big in the eyes of the PMI. Task 8, the last one, inform stakeholders of the approved project charter to ensure common understanding of key deliverables, milestones, and their roles and responsibilities. Okay, so for each of these process groups, folks, there is a section in the content outline where the PMI clarifies this is what we're looking for from you. This is what we would like you to know for initiating, you see. So if you really want to do well in initiating, I would highly recommend page 5 of this content outline. And I would also recommend reading, the correlating pages in the PMBOK guide. If you read a task, look for that corresponding aspect in the PMBOK guide and firm up your understanding, okay? There will be lots of questions about what to do if there's no charter, or what do you do if the charter is maybe incorrect, or what do you do if there has been a change? Should you recharter the project? These are all things you should be ready to face. You can't continue your project with a charter that has incorrect information. So if various documents need to be modified, they need to be modified. The Stakeholder Register is a living document. That's also part of initiating. So the Stakeholder Register needs to be updated, all the time. So if you get questions that allude to a Stakeholder Register not being updated, that's a red flag. It should be updated. One key unlocking factor that has helped many students pass the exam, that has helped unlock their minds, is if you get questions on the PMP exam, don't select the answer that is a mommy help me kind of answer. Don't select answers that allude to you not knowing what to do. A lot of questions will push boundaries by trying to get you to ask the manager, trying to get you to ask your manager or senior manager to advise you on what to do. But those are not the correct answers. The correct answer is one in which the PM is decisive and takes action to solve the problem. If there is a problem, solve the problem. Brainstorm. Work with the team. but the best answer is not going to your manager or going to senior management. So when you look at the PMP exam, just in the back of your mind, think, I'm a PM, I have authority, I have power, I have clout, and I'm in either a strong matrix or projectized organization. That's the frame of mind in which you should be thinking, not run into management every second. So if you get questions that want the PM to take a stand in developing a charter, getting approval, that's what should be done. Or taking the initiative to develop a charter, taking the initiative to identify stakeholders. A lot of times you could be tricked into choosing the wrong answer by statements such as, in this organization, this is not our process, or that is not our process. No, the PM, the PMP, who you are training to be, needs to be able to take the initiative and say, I know we don't currently do this, but I am a professional project manager and I know that this is going to help the project, so I'm going to do it. As long as you're not harming company reputation, as long as you're not harming people on the project, you need to take a stand and do what you need to do as the PM. I think one of the problems a lot of project managers face is in the real world, they usually have to run to management. They usually run and say, oh, I need help, or this is happening, what should I do, and so on. But that is not the right answer. Thank you, Armando. I can see you've joined. Thank you very much for liking the video, and I wish you all the best in your endeavors. If you're taking a PMP exam or maybe you're a PMP, wish you all the best in your project management. You see, a lot of PMs, as they go for the PMP exam, maybe like me, they've had experience where they look at management as being the authorities that they need to run to every second. When I took my PMP exam, I was still a little bit early in my career, and really the program manager on that project was someone who we would run to every now and again and ask, what should we do? But not in the world of the PMI. You see, that's one of the reasons why a lot of people have difficulty on the exam, because in the real world, they've done things in a particular way. Very sad, a few years ago, maybe about 7, 8 years ago, there was a PM who struggled and struggled. He took it 3 times, took the PMP exam, and he said, Phil, I think my real world is just so different from the PMP exam that I'm not going to take this exam. And it was sad because all it needed was a little bit of a mental adjustment. As you're coming into the world of the PMI, just say, I don't know anything right now. I am going to learn from scratch. I'm going to learn the PMI's dogma. I'm going to learn their methodology. Just do a data erase from your mind. And as you begin to read the content, it will begin to make more sense. One of the things a student of mine struggled with was, why should I ask the dump truck that's dumping gravel or sand or whatever, why should I ask them to take it away when it meets the technical requirements? It may not meet all the customer's requirements, but it can do the job. Why do I have to return it? And in the world of the PMI, as you know, in quality management, it has to meet the specs. It has to be exactly as defined, or it has to meet the range of parameters given. And if it doesn't meet the parameters given, even though it could do the job, don't accept it. Don't use it. You see, a lot of people struggle with that as well. Another thing people struggle with, especially in initiating, is, why do I need to have a charter? In my company, we don't use charters. In my company, we don't even use a formal project management plan. We call our Microsoft project schedule a project management plan. So I have students who say, Phil, why do we have to do this? And I keep telling them, hey, it's a standard. The PMI is not the police that are saying you have to have a project management plan on every project. You have to have a project scope statement, and you have to have a quality management plan on every project. No, that's not what they're saying. They're only giving people options. They're helping people see, this is a possibility. If you're on a project, maybe this could help. I look at the 47 processes as 47 options, 47 possibilities, of things that you could do. You don't have to do them, but you could. And that's why the PMI talks about tailoring in the integration knowledge area, tailoring. In my world, I look at the 47 processes as being options, and maybe 20% of those options are relevant for your project. You know, the 80-20 rule, 20% of those processes could give you a huge 80% payoff, and then the other 80% gives you a 20% payoff, because it depends on your firm, it depends on your organization, it depends on things that have been used, So I am not one to check every single one of the 47 processes and say, you have to do this, you have to do this, you have to do this. In the real world, it's different. In the real world, you have options. In the real world, you have tailoring that you can use. But on the PMP exam, there's no tailoring. You can't say, well, in my world, we don't use this. So on the PMP exam, I'm going to choose C because it says we don't need a scope statement. No, if the question is asking your inclusions, exclusions, constraints, and assumptions are not aligned, what should you do, or which document will help you? You want to choose the relevant document, you see. So I know today is initiating. We're going to have 4 more days in which we cover these things, and it may not be 4 days in a row. I might take a break, but I am going to put up these videos that give you insights on how to pass initiating, how to pass planning, executing, monitoring and controlling, and closing. Because it's very unfortunate, when you hear stories from some students. Some students say, I failed initiating and I didn't pass the exam, or I failed closing and one other area and didn't pass the exam. These areas, they do count. Initiating, 13%, closing, 7%. And remember, I told you at the very beginning, go to PMI's site or go to Google and type in PMP content outline, PMP exam content outline. That is the document that you want to read, you want to go through it, and you want to make sure that all of those tasks, you can actually answer it. I usually joke and I tell people, don't tell anyone this stuff is what the exam is based on. I'm showing it to you in confidence. I kind of joke, and I know it's in jest, but this is real. This is gold, folks. This is pure gold. A lot of great exams, including ours, our mock exam, we actually base our mock exam on the PMP exam content outline. All of the questions, all of the ideas, it comes from making sure that students can actually follow the content outline, and it's free. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't even read it. It's a free document. It's a PDF. It's got about 19 pages in it, and it's an easy read. But if you read through it, you'll begin to find out what the PMI could do on your exam. Okay? Well, I hope that helps. I hope that gives you some insights as far as passing initiating on the exam. Remember, the project charter, always ask yourself the what, when, why, and how of any project document that you come across. So in initiating, the project charter, what is it? When is it developed? Why is it developed? How is it developed? So the what of the charter would be, it's a document that authorizes the project. It is a document that authorizes the project manager to apply resources to the project. It's a document that gives clarity as far as what needs to be done on the project. It gives high-level clarity about milestones, about risks, about high-level assumptions and constraints. It's all high-level, but it is very relevant for future processes where you're going to flesh out all of this high-level stuff, So that's the what. The when is it developed? It should be developed prior to planning. So you get the authority, and then you begin to plan. You begin to apply resources, human resources, and so on to plan the project. So develop your charter before you plan, before you take that step. The charter is developed after the contract is signed. So if you're working with an external customer, of course, the contract should be in place before the charter is developed. The project sponsor, of course, is the person who identifies the PM and signs off. So the project sponsor should be your go-to person as far as, is it time to do this? Or maybe you take the initiative and you get buy-in from the sponsor if your firm is not really that into charters and so on. If you're a PMP in a company where the PMBOK guide is not recognized, it's your duty, it's your professional responsibility, to be honest, to begin to introduce them to some of these things that can help. So that's the charter, that's the what, that's the when, the why. Why do we develop it? Is it just a ritual that we go through? No. The reason why we develop the charter is to clarify what needs to be done. Now, except it's just you on the project, working in isolation, cranking out all the deliverables, you need a charter. You need to put your team on the same page. The charter will help people coming into the project immediately understand that is what we're trying to achieve. This is what we're trying to do on the project. And it's a very high level document, doesn't need to be detailed. So that's the what, that's the when, the why, the how do you develop it. The charter could be developed in a variety of ways. It could be with the project manager working with the sponsor. It could be the sponsor who develops the charter and exposes the project manager to the fact that it's being developed. It could be the project manager working with a bunch of stakeholders to put all of this information together, depending on the complexity of the project. So if you really know what any of these documents in initiating is, like the charter, like the stakeholder register, the what, when, why, and how of the stakeholder register, what is it? It's a document that identifies all the stakeholders, the key stakeholders especially, has all of their information, contact information, their role on the project. It also has information as to, are they neutral? Are they a resistor? Are they positive, negative, however you want to categorize them? Are they in support of the project or not? All of that stuff. What phase are they most interested in? When do you develop it? Well, you develop it in initiating, again, as early as possible. It's an iterative thing. So if you truly understand, folks, the major documents of these process groups, like initiating is today, the charter, stakeholder register, that's pretty much it. It's pretty much the charter and the stakeholder register. Now, if you think about the inputs that go into these, your business case, your agreements, what do those agreements look like when we're putting the charter together? We're talking about things such as the memorandums of understanding, the letters of intent if they exist, verbal agreements, things such as that, contracts. All of those are documents you should be aware of. We also have one we loosely refer to as a statement of work, not to be confused with the project scope statement. The statement of work is high level. The scope statement goes into a lot more detail, things like that. Then going into identifying stakeholders, your charter is an input. Procurement documents is an input. Why are procurement documents an input? Because your vendors, your sellers, your suppliers, those could also be people that you consider as stakeholders. Okay, so if you understand the what, when, the why, the how of these documents, folks, when they're developed, where they're going, and all that stuff, it will greatly help you as you prepare for the exam. Okay, so thank you very much for your audience. I wish you all the best in your prep. And don't forget, if you need any additional help, like you've got questions about the exam, just shoot a question down at the bottom of this video. I'll be more than happy to get back to you. The website, pmsucceed.com. We want you to succeed as PMs on the PMP exam. So go to pmsucceed.com if you're looking for training and coaching to take you to the next level as you prepare for the PMP exam. All right, so thank you very much for your audience, and I wish you a lovely rest of the week, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye for now.